Hi, this is Imre Galambos, Professor of Chinese at the University of Cambridge. And this video is about the necessity of sharing your research with others around you, about the benefits of talking to fellow students and researchers who are also working on their own research. You know how they always told you when you were a kid, don't talk to strangers? Well, it turns out that talking to others is actually a really important part of functioning properly as a human being. Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, or whether these categories are actually meaningful, to improve your research, you need to be talking constantly to others around you. You need to be sharing your research. So if this is a topic you're interested in, keep watching. But before doing that, please hit the subscribe and like buttons to help the channel grow and to be notified when I upload new videos. Ultimately, writing a book or a dissertation is a solitary experience. This is not a team sport. You cannot hop around in euphoria, giving high fives to your team members every time you score. Instead, you sit in front of the computer at home or with a pile of books around you in your carrel in the library and watch as the hours and days go by while you're inching your way across the pages. Then the days turn into weeks and months and you're essentially still doing the same thing. Reading books and articles and sitting in front of your computer. Sure, you might take part in online social media and check your Facebook or Twitter account, but eventually you'll learn to turn these off and stay away from them because they distract you from your immediate task, which is to read books and articles and sit in front of your computer. Yet, even amidst this self-imposed loneliness, it is really important to talk to others about what you're writing on, to discuss with them your ideas. And to do this continuously from the earliest stages of your project. Talking to others has three major benefits, and all three of them are extremely important. The first is that you need to learn to articulate your ideas in a way that makes sense to others. You need to be able to explain the point of your dissertation or article to someone who is much less excited about it. You need to be able to convince them that this is an interesting topic that's worth exploring in much more detail than it had been done before. Before you interject that you're not that concerned about what others may say about your research, because you know that it is important. In fact, your dissertation or article will be a milestone in your research field. Let me remind you that you will be explaining your research not so much to them as to yourself. You need to be able to articulate your ideas in a way that's understandable for others. And you need to be able to do this in a variety of different ways, depending on the situation and depending on your audience. And as you do this, you will soon learn what works, what it is that makes everybody excited, and which are the points that elicit no reaction whatsoever. Or maybe just a polite question about something else to change the subject. I certainly don't mean to say that you should go out to bars and clubs and bore everyone with the details of your dissertation, especially if it's about the role of the SEAL script in East and Han intellectual circles. You will probably find very few attentive ears for something that specific, but you should certainly seek out other students and researchers around you and engage in a conversation about research and writing. And do take every opportunity to explain your research to others in a way that suits their level of familiarity with the subject. Again, this is not about them, it is about you. By iterating your ideas in a variety of different ways and being sensitive to the listener's reactions, you will gradually shape your ideas into a form that makes sense to most people who are listening to them. My second point is that by talking to others, you will also learn from them. Not necessarily because they go out of the way to help you in some way. After all, everyone is busy and focused on their own project, but through example. By being in constant communication with other researchers and students, you will see how they go about certain tasks, how they formulate their ideas, what their biggest challenges are, how they get books through the interlibrary loan system, how they manage to get a travel grant to do a training on paleography in Paris, or how they get a book deal with a publisher even before they complete their dissertation. You will learn from them even if they're not teaching you, and similarly, they will learn from you. And the third point is perhaps the most obvious one, is that you need feedback. And preferably, this feedback should be continuous. It should come as a trickle of running water, which is not overwhelming, but is always present. Feedback is always useful, but nothing is more useful than immediate feedback. Rather than completing larger chunks of work and submitting them together in one go to someone for assessment, you need to be able to test your ideas on someone who will tell you right then and there whether they make any sense, or whether there is something fundamentally wrong with them. And they may not always be right, but doing this will force you to rephrase your ideas in a way that makes sense to them. Immediate feedback is extremely useful, and it is easier to handle it in tiny doses than as big chunks of conclusive judgments passed down to you along some official channel. That's one of the main benefits of giving a presentation about your research at some event, whether it's a workshop or research day. You deliver a small part of your research to a focused audience, and you see their reaction on their faces. You get questions and critical remarks right away. And in a coffee break, people will come up to you and give you some more comments. And the point of these presentations is that you get immediate feedback on something relatively minor, so you can go back to what you're writing at the moment and make changes accordingly. You can cite the additional primary sources people suggested, track down a couple of relevant articles you were not aware of, eliminate terms that are problematic and have too much baggage, or write much more about a point the audience found particularly inspiring. So ideally, feedback should come as a steady stream of small chunks, rather than big blocks that crush you every time you receive them. And talking to others is an excellent way of doing this. To put it simply, you need allies and friends who can tell you whether you're going in the right direction, or the wrong direction for that matter. Because a solution to something you've been struggling for weeks might seem obvious for someone from the outside. You also need some honest critical remarks, and with friends in most cases, this will be delivered in a way that does not put a dent in your self-esteem. They will just say, "Oh, didn't what's-his-name wrote an article about this 20 years ago, proving that that inscription was a forgery?" Or that, "Oh, didn't you know somebody wrote a dissertation about this several years ago?" And these are things you need to find out as soon as possible. You don't want something like that come out when you're defending your dissertation, all dressed up and nervous. In addition to these 3 points, of course, there are many other benefits to talking to others. Humans are, after all, social beings, and your well-being is also tied to being in constant interaction with others. Alright, let me know if you have any questions or whether there are topics you would like me to talk about. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.